Hi, I'm Chris King, and with me today is Nancy Daniels, a familiar face from several videos that we've done in the past. We want to spend a few moments today talking about tariffs, which have been a subject that has been top of mind both for us as well as for our customers. And today we're going to do things a little bit different. I'm going to ask a series of questions, and Nancy's going to go through and give us a response that is associated back with several different, I would say, planning sessions that we've had on tariffs and trying to really understand the new landscapes that we're in. So with that, I'm going to dive right in. And these are directly from our customers over the last 6 months as we've been going through this. So I did want to start off a little bit, though, with some background. So most people associate Hyosung with Korea, and we actually manufacture in Vietnam. You just recently spent some time at a manufacturing facility in Vietnam. Given that, can you give a little bit of background on why we manufacture in Vietnam and the resemblance behind that?
Certainly. So first of all, there are close economic ties between the Korean government and the Vietnamese government. And it's not just Hyosung. Most major Korean companies actually have made very, very material plant and equipment investments in Vietnam. So whether it's Hyundai, Samsung, LG, in addition to Hyosung, have really sort of use our work in conjunction with the country of Vietnam and use that as their sort of manufacturing base.
Excellent. Thank you. And also the recent tariffs have been announced at 20%. With that, how do you see that import tariff affecting kind of the cost of Hyosung ATMs to the market?
Well, the reality is that we are dealing with a new economic reality, which we're going to be dealing with for some period of time. Over the past several months, we've been sort of waiting as things have sort of gone up and down from the initial announcement of the tariffs last April to now to really understand where things were going to land. So the reality of where we're at is that we believe this is something which is going to be impacting us for an ongoing period of time. And because of the value that we sort of provide to our customers, it will be necessary for us to pass, at least a substantial portion of those tariffs on to our customers to deal with that new economic reality.
Excellent. And given that we've looked at different scenarios, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how many different scenarios that we've looked at in going through this. Assembly in the U.S. has been a big topic, and it's one that we've done some extensive research on. Can you give us a little bit of detail around what that will look like and what the timelines associated with that would be?
Certainly, Chris, thank you. And in fact, that was one of the reasons I was in Vietnam recently, was really to sort of understand what was sort of necessary and the best way to approach this. So when the tariffs were first announced, we began as one of the options is to consider local U.S. assembly. And so we have a fairly complex supply chain where products are not they don't just come from Vietnam, they come from China. There are products which come from Taiwan, from Germany, from Korea, and so forth. So the current process that we're going through is to really look at doing local U.S. assembly. There are a couple states that we already have a presence in, such as Ohio and Texas. But the key thing is looking to spin up the final assembly of the ATM, basically bringing the various components from around the world here to the U.S., very likely using U.S. steel, and then integrating those together into the final product for our customers. By doing so, we believe that we can somewhat mitigate the impact of the tariffs which are currently being imposed.
Now, there's tariffs, and then there's transshipment tariffs, which they can be a bit confusing. Can you talk to us a little bit about transshipment tariffs, since you talked about different countries and different components to be able to do assembly?
Certainly. So quite simply, transshipment, the idea is that, say, something is manufactured in Vietnam, as we do, but then it's transshipped through Korea and then on to the U.S. And the idea is that the current tariff in Vietnam is 20%. The current tariff in Korea is 15%. The idea would be, well, if I buy it from Korea, I can get a 15% tariff, save 5%. The administration has sort of focused on that, and they've made it very clear that any shipment that they see coming in that has been knowingly sort of transshipped, that they will immediately levy a 40% tariff on it, which sort of makes it both a very risky and uneconomical thing to do.
Ouch, that could hurt. So one thing top of mind with customers for sure is is there a soft landing, and what has Hyosung done to be able to try and help mitigate as much of the tariff as possible?
So as I said, there are a couple things, and there are short-term things, there are longer-term things. In short term, again, we're dealing with a new economic reality that we're going to be with, that is going to be really something we have to deal with for some time. And the short term reality of that is that to a large extent, we'll be passing on the tariffs. In the medium term, really, that is really where we're looking at basically local assembly to somewhat mitigate those tariffs. Longer term, Hyosung is a very talented, very sophisticated engineering company, and we're looking in terms of future products to cost engineering those future products to sort of, again, provide the same value, the same kind of equipment, but at lower cost. But that is a longer term thing. So basically, in terms of time scale, we're talking about fairly immediately sort of passing on tariffs, roughly about a year or so being in a position where we can do local U.S. assembly. And then it takes a couple of years to sort of develop new products, roughly about 2 years out to be in a position where we'll see the first cost engineered products that provide the same sort of features, capability, and value, but at a better cost to mitigate the tariffs.
So one final question. Hyosung manufactures ATMs, and that's a big part of the business. But likewise, service is a very big part of the business as well. How will tariffs have an impact on servicing our customers these days?
So that's actually good news, Chris. In the service business really has sort of three key cost factors. That is the labor, that's the actual cost of the technicians, transportation, that's the technician's vehicle, gas, moving parts around and so forth, and the parts we use to repair equipment. The good news is because of both the reliability of our equipment and just the nature of the ATM equipment, the actual number of parts used is actually a fairly small percentage of the number of service calls. In addition to that, in our industry, service parts are reconditioned to like new over and over again. And usually what that means is the parts you use to fix those are fairly inexpensive. So the reality is that service is really more driven by inflationary pressures. Basically the inflationary pressures driving the cost of gas, driving the cost of technician salaries and so forth. But there really is nothing that materially impacts things from a tariff standpoint.
Great. So I think needless to say, tariffs have been a complex and ever-changing environment every single day. One thing that I do appreciate is you going through and talking about all the various kind of triggers that Hyosung has put in place to be able to either soften the blow, cushion it as much as possible, or provide transparency into them. So with the final 30 seconds, what would you say?
Again, we really appreciate everybody working with us. We've been on top of this. I've been back and forth to Washington, D.C. multiple times. We're doing everything we can to support our customers. We appreciate the competitive environment our customers deal in, and that banks, much the same as and credit unions, ISO IDs operate on fairly thin margins, and we know that we have an obligation to provide you the best possible value. And the key message I'd like to say is we're really grateful for both your patience and for your ongoing business and support of Hyosung. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you everyone for sticking with us. Until next time.